All right, let's get straight into it because some days you walk into a courtroom thinking you're just an extra in someone else's play, and by lunchtime, the whole world's flipped on its head. That day, nobody expected fireworks, least of all the folks who thought they ran the show. It was just another trial, another black woman called to testify, standing in front of a sea of uniforms, most of whom looked at her like she was invisible. They'd already written the script, you know what I mean? The ending was always the same. But not today. Today, arrogance was about to get a reality check. That federal courtroom was packed so tight you could feel the stress bouncing off the walls. But honestly, you wouldn't know it by looking at Lieutenant Mark Reynolds. He lounged back in his chair like he was just waiting for coffee, eyes half-lidded, arms folded, a little smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. 20 years on the force, dozens of accusations, never so much as a scratch on his record. His lawyer-real sharp suit, hair gray at the temples, looked like he'd seen it all. And maybe he had, because for guys like Reynolds, these cases were a joke. Video evidence? Eyewitnesses? Please. All you had to do was say the magic words, "felt threatened," and suddenly justice was just a formality. So, the prosecution did their thing. Played the tape Reynolds yanking a black man out of a car, shoving him, cuffing him, barely a flinch. The jury looked bored. Even the judge seemed like he'd heard it all before. And then it was her turn to witness. She stepped up, tall and proud, sharp suit, eyes that cut right through the room. The cops sitting in the back row nudged each other, barely trying to hide their smirks. Another activist, another nobody. That's what they thought. She took the stand, breathed in slow, and when she spoke, it was like the air changed. "My name is Naomi Foster." Reynolds frowned, something flickering behind his eyes. She didn't stop. "I'm the Inspector General of the United States, responsible for investigating law enforcement misconduct nationwide." The room went dead silent. You ever hear 100 people stop breathing at once? That's what it sounded like. Suddenly, Reynolds wasn't so cocky. His lawyer stiffened, glancing at her with a new kind of worry. Naomi looked out at the crowd, at the jury, the judge, every officer in the room, and you could see the power shift. She laid out her evidence, every word like a hammer strike. Lieutenant Mark Reynolds has been subject to 27 internal investigations. Not a single one resulted in prosecution. Why? The judge fidgeted. The jury sat up a little straighter. Reynolds just stared at the floor, jaw clenched tight. But Naomi wasn't just here for Reynolds, she was here for the whole rotten system. She pulled out documents with federal seals, waved them in the air, let everyone get a good look. All approved by the FBI. All corroborated. You could feel the tension twist in the air, like a storm about to break. The defense tried to push back something about legal technicalities, chain of custody, whatever. Naomi just stared him down, cool as ice. "We can wait while you verify," she said, not an ounce of fear in her voice. That's when Reynolds snapped. He jumped up, voice shaking, pointing at Naomi with pure hatred. "Who do you think you are? I've served this city for 2 decades, locked up hundreds of criminals, and now some black woman with a badge is going to take me down." He didn't even realize how pathetic he sounded, how small. Naomi just looked at him, voice steady as a drum. "No, Mark, you did this to yourself." The jury caught on quick. You could see the realization dawn, years of cover-ups, lies, all exposed in front of God and everybody. Reynolds started to sweat, slumping in his chair, his lawyer suddenly looking for the nearest exit. The judge tried to bring order, gavel pounding, but it was like trying to stop a freight train. Then came the twist. Reynolds, red-faced and wild, lunged at Naomi, desperate, cornered, but 2 officers slammed him down before he got close. There he was, face pressed to the cold tile, wrists cuffed, all that bravado leaking away. Naomi didn't even flinch. She just watched as he was dragged out, the untouchable finally touched. As the courtroom emptied, one juror, a gray-haired man with tired eyes, caught Naomi's gaze and nodded. He knew what had happened here. Everybody did. For the first time in years, someone had cracked the shield. But as Naomi walked out into the chilly afternoon, the real battle was just starting. Word of the verdict spread like wildfire. The city was buzzing, papers running headlines about the fall of Mark Reynolds. Inside the department, panic set in. Old-timers grumbled, "She betrayed us," while others just stared at their shoes, afraid they'd be next. Revenge started to bubble under the surface. Not long after, the threats came. Texts from burner numbers, "You're next. You can't break the system." Naomi was no stranger to intimidation, but the chill in the air was real. One night, she spotted a black car tailing her. Instead of heading home, she peeled off and drove straight to a police station, watched the car screech away in her rearview mirror. Yeah, they were serious. The press had a field day. "How many more Reynoldses are out there?" the headline screamed. The mayor was forced to call for an independent investigation. Suddenly, names started dropping, senior officers suspended, old cases reopened, everyone running scared. Naomi had hit a nerve, and the city could feel it. Then, a letter Aravedno return address, just a neighborhood on the west side. Inside, a single note. "I have evidence. Meet me." Risky? Yeah. But Naomi went anyway, cautious, nerves tingling. The contact turned out to be a jittery cop in a black hoodie, eyes darting like a trapped animal. "It's bigger than Reynolds," he whispered, sliding a folder across the table. Emails, wire transfers, bribes, the whole network exposed. But there was a catch. "They find out I talked. I'm dead." Naomi didn't blink. She sent the files to a trusted journalist, bypassing the department altogether. 48 hours later, headlines exploded with new allegations. The city was on fire, the public demanding blood, and the politicians scrambling to save their skins. The wolves circled closer. 3 days later, Naomi could feel eyes on her everywhere she went. That night, the phone rang, heavy breathing, then a click. She checked the window, saw headlights flicker off on the street. Enough was enough. She grabbed her pistol and walked out the door, straight into the dark. A figure stepped from the shadows, coat pulled up, face hidden. "You're poking a lot of dangerous people, Foster." Naomi squared up, gun at her side. "If you're here to threaten me, get in line." The man just smiled, tossed her a slip of paper. "Last warning. Back off, or someone gets hurt." She looked him dead in the eye. "You should be more worried about what happens if I don't." Next morning, Naomi met with the FBI director, laid everything on the table, the new files, the threats, the whole ugly mess. The investigation blew open, officers arrested, department shaken to its core. But Naomi knew the fight wasn't over. One battle won didn't mean the war was finished. A week later, Naomi sat at her desk, city lights blinking outside, phone buzzing with messages from every direction. She cracked the wall, sure, but the rot was deep, and she knew there'd be more nights with cars parked outside, more cold stares in the hallway, more letters without signatures. And that's the reality, isn't it? Sometimes justice takes a sledgehammer. Sometimes it's just one person refusing to back down even when the world's lined up against them. So let's talk about it. Was Naomi a hero, or did she cross a line? Is there ever a right way to take on a broken system, or does it just make more enemies? Drop your thoughts below, because this story, it's not finished. Not by a long shot.